Hey, it's Andre, and welcome to another RC Afterhours podcast. Man, botched that intro terribly, but whatever. It's Labor Day weekend, and believe it or not, I've done something I've wanted to do for weeks and weeks and weeks. 2 consecutive days of flying. Saturday and Sunday. Would have flown this morning, but it was terribly windy and rain and so forth. But got out, flew, got the rust off the sticks, as they say, and did something else, and we'll talk about that into the show, and just finally feeling good, finally feeling energetic. For anybody who watched the Friday flying update, talked a little bit about that, but it's just nice to have a little bit of steam in me, a little bit of fire in the belly, and some fun. And so that's what this weekend was all about. It was awesome. I'm relaxed. I'm happy. I'm energetic. It's been a long time since I can say I've been like this. So we're going to jump into the show. I kind of scrambled and put my show notes together really quick, but hey, that's the nature of the show. No guests on or nothing, just me and the microphone and some ideas that have been kicking around in the old head as I kind of play through things and figure out what I want and everything. So, and if you're watching, if you're listening, awesome. Thank you for the subscribers. Thank you for the Patreons and everything. We'll get to that a little bit of that through the show. And of course, I want to do a quick, where's that screen? Thank you to Buddy RC for doing a discount code, 10% off. The code is rcafterhours, all lowercase. 10% off your purchases, good till the 31st of October this year, so it's like just another month because we're into September already. But again, buddyrc.com. Thank you. That's courtesy of TJ, who set us up with that. So, yeah, talking about the weekend, I flew a couple various different aircraft, and it was based on looking at the weather and the conditions and everything. So I got out there from everything from my Tundra, which is still kicking and fun. We had the little the DLG, which I'll talk about the DLG experience so far. I'm sorry, it's not going to be a good story. I flew the little Flight Test Mini, and I've shot video. I filled up my hard drive, so there's content coming and everything. And I guess I'll jump right into the big one, and that was flying the Bixler FPV pan and tilt for the first time in years. And that was, check out, if you're watching on YouTube, if not, dig through, search up my YouTube channel. First experience flying that thing in ages. And I've had the Bixler 2 since 2014. I don't know if anybody has something that's just been kicked around. Everybody's like, what OSD are you running with? I'm like, I don't even know if they make it anymore. It's just a generic GPS-driven OSD, no return, no flight controller, nothing. Pure fly. And I have to say, it took me a little bit to get comfortable again under the goggles, and I remember flying this plane, and I think the biggest cardinal sin I used to make was I'd overweight it. 2 batteries in there, one driving the FPV system, one driving the power system, and I think I just put too much mass, too much weight into this aircraft. And so when I got to the field on Sunday when I flew it, I gave it a toss, took it out, just do line of sight flight, to retrim it and everything and check it out. I mean, it's literally hung in in the basement for a good many years. I flew a lot when I got it, and then I moved on from it. And you go through these transitions through the hobby and everything, and so it's really cool to come back and get back into FPV flying and use something that is fairly stable platform. And that was the whole point of the first line of sight flight. What happens when I trim it out, take my hands off the stick, and I don't know anybody else, I don't like taking off, depending on the airplane, I don't prefer to take off with my goggles on. But the problem I run into with some of these planes is the transition from light to dark, depending on the camera, depending on the light condition, everything. I sometimes find it really hard on my eyes to transition. And so that moment of blindness, like where your eyes are adapting to the color change or the brightness and luminance off the goggles. And so one thing I was checking with the Bixler as I was flying it through the air was, what's it going to do when I get into certain points? So I had to find that point in the sky. Okay, when I take my hands off the sticks, to put the goggles on, and so I trimmed it all out and everything. And I flew one flight, and if you watch the video, I discuss it where I'm trying to get the goggles to play nice and get the head tracker working, and there's a button you have to press, and I guess I locked it out and I couldn't find the button, so I spent the entire flight with one hand jammed on the aileron controls just to keep the plane level and everything, and tapping around trying to find it. And that's where I'm thinking, okay, the next plane I might get a little spoiled and put a flight controller into it so I can hold your attitude and altitude and direction and just set up stuff. When I fly the little Sky Hunter, that thing is so small and so efficient that I can take my hands off it and fiddle with my goggles all I want. But the Bixler is a little different. And I remember my last couple of flights with the Bixler, really struggling to get the thing in the air. That motor is, it's a Bell-styled can, I think, and the 7x5 or 4x5 prop doesn't have a lot of bite. Once you're up in the air, it's great. It's more than enough power. You just have to, it's a momentum plane, right? You can slow it down, but you've got to watch when you reapply that power. But to get it off the air. So the couple things I did as I was doing my throw tests and everything was trying it with the different flaps. I found it actually took off better without the flaps and everything, and that was really nice. And saying good evening to a couple of the guys watching live on the stream right now, Victor and Brian. Hey guys, evening. Sorry if I didn't advertise the show. I didn't even know I was going to do one, but moment of opportunity. Figured I owed the show and the community a podcast because, like I said, August was ugh. And I'll talk about that a little later on. Anyhow, back to flying the Bixler. The video is about an 8 to 10 minute. I'm sorry, it's boring. It's me having fun, me rediscovering how much I enjoy this hobby, and I really had a really fun flight. I had the guys watching, so I had my spotters, a couple guys on goggles, and watching the monitor on the car, recording the feed. And there's one point you hear Steve go by, and Captain Drone got some nice aerial footage of the Bixler going by. The only flaw I had in the video, I have to admit, is I didn't put my clip mic on, so you just hear everything as the GoPro is on the ground capturing it. But to get that airplane back in the air, to blow off all that steam and that pressure and just have a really solid flight and this is old stuff. This stuff is 6-7 years old now, right? The Bixler 2 is an old design. It's crammed. Everything's in there. I don't even look inside of it because there's such a spaghetti mess of wires inside this aircraft. And I've actually, over the years, this was like the first airplane I think I cut open and I stuffed the receiver into the back and I rerouted where the GPS and hangs off the boom and everything. And so it's not perfect, but it works. And this got my head thinking, a nice little segue, right? This got my head thinking, what is the perfect FPV ship? And I put it out on the RC After Hours Instagram page and kind of asked a few people and everything, what is the perfect ship? Is it thrown? Does it have landing gear instead? Does it have a flight controller or not? OSD, pan and tilt. There is no perfect answer. And it comes back to what we always say about these aircraft and this hobby, the right plane for the right condition, right? And so the Bixler worked in the environment I'm flying in the little park. It's not a little park, but do I need a flight controller? Not really. And I get away with the pan and tilt and everything. So I'm actually in the middle of sketching out some of the stuff I want to do, but I would like an airplane I could take off. And a couple of the guys who really enjoyed flying the Warbirds at the field were doing this for a couple of years, taking off FPV with the Warbird, doing the full experience, which is really cool. And I'm like, I've got a couple high wings I could throw it on. And it got me thinking, why have I always been so resistant to slap FPV system onto something like one of the twins, the Bush Mule or something? And I always felt the mass. I've always been fearful of the mass of the aircraft, because if you have something go wrong and that's a lot of airplane to lose and go down with. So I'm kind of like, okay, so if it's going to be a twin, it's going to be lightweight, very similar to the Yard Smash plane, which is just a small profile footprint airplane with lots of fun gears. So I've got an INAV project. I bought some equipment back in like 2017. And I never got around to doing it. So I'm planning on putting that in, but there's a couple of restrictions in that I lose my ability to put in a pan and tilt depending on the receiver I use. And it's just a simple FR Sky S-Bus receiver. So there's no extra channels and there's no extra pinouts on the flight board. So I'm like, so I got to play with it. it's me having to relearn. So it's something else. So like a lot of you guys, I talked to Sean who does the Defiant Wing products, and he's like, oh, you do this. And so I've actually gone and ordered some other equipment from Banggood. First order since March, actually. So I should see that in 2021, right? And I'm going to continue to work. I've got a wing back there. I've got wings I need to finish. Don't even go there. I'm sorry. I'll get to them one day. But right now, I feel like the 60-inch wingspan twin prop airplane is my cat's meow, and that's what I'm going to kind of work towards as I build this next airplane. And it's going to be foam board, probably foam board with tape, so it can deal with the weather conditions as I get into the fall and everything. The flight test water-resistant foam board worked really well on the little mini Mustang. Wait for that video. I'm going to do that. But I've been watching the price of that stuff go up and up and up. So I kind of go, well, the dollar store foam board is still $1.25, plus a roll of tape is another $2. So you get a couple pieces of foam board, strip the paper off the outer layer, and then put tape over top of it, and presto, you've got a semi-water resistant plane that can fly into the fall. So I'm going to play with the equipment, but if you're put in your comments into the show, put what is your FPV aircraft? Big shout out to all those people buying the Renegade from our friends at Defiant. Sean's telling me he's pushing out a good number of those airplanes. So he's found that little niche market, and I was discussing with him what's next. Or we're gonna look at something. You're gonna look at something that's a little bigger, and I can't wait to see the community feedback on that aircraft. Again, that one is kind of the birth child out of the yard challenge that Sean was able to come up with. Maybe I can pull up his website really fast and put that up on the show. Anyhow, just go to Defiant Wings and check out the Renegade. $50 US, which is really sweet. It's 24-inch wingspan, foam, really light. Likes to be in that 2S kind of power range. We're always seeing people with 3S. In the 2S power range, it is in the sub 250 gram class. So that's really where it makes it sweet and really interesting. So yeah. rcafterhours podcast at gmail.com, on the Facebook page, on the Instagram page. Send in your comments, send in your ideas of what your ideal FPV ship is. I'm really kind of interested in knowing. I had a couple people come back, and it's like, is it a twin star kind of look, or is it going to be like the FT Legacy? Because I want the twin prop, and I've got equipment sitting on me behind the bench. I've got that old flight controller, which is from 2017, so it's not too old. And there's going to be some new equipment coming into the shop eventually just for this. And diving into the hobby and looking at the FPV stuff, it's been interesting to see. I'm just gonna say within the last 2 years, a lot of the advancement, and I want to dive into some of that and talk about it. Like you get things like websites, you get things like, and this will all be in the show notes, folks. So if you're tracking along, FR Sky just put out a whole new 9R. It's called the FR Sky 9R RX SR Pilot Flight Control System. Basically a 3-layer stack with your flight controller, your OSD, and your does it have a transmitter? What's on board here? Features: your standard F port 2 protocol, 12 motor servo outputs, OSD built in, flight controller, supports all your sensors, and it has built-in receiver, obviously. So. And what was it? What did it retail for? I think it retailed for $60 US. And that's everything. If you're flying that protocol, that is simply crazy and amazing, right? Years ago, when David was talking with the flight test RC Afterhours podcast, we would go on about how we didn't like all-in-one solutions because of the cost, and if a component goes down, the whole thing is scrapped and everything. Now $60, and you get your flight controller, your receiver with telemetry, and an OSD. That is just absolutely mind-boggling. So, and everybody's got their flavor of this technology, obviously, and that's where it's been really interesting to go from all this stuff. Now, The caveat to that is whatever airplane or wing or whatever you're putting the stuff into, you need that space on board, obviously, and you need to be able to get the orientation right. So this is one of the things where the scratch build is kind of neat, because if I decide that I don't like that board, well, I have a vector somewhere that I've never flown that I could actually throw into an airplane. So, and then you got to worry about the orientation, but most of these you drop in the software and you can change and everything. But the fact that, that FR Sky is recognizing and what's next, are we going to have something built in? Well, I mean, the quads have it, right? They have the boards on board, but you'll be able to do your recording. We'll talk about that too, the recording technology, but your ESC built into this thing now, and that's come along as well from FR Sky and a few other ones. So, pretty soon we're just going to have stacks. I mean, this is stuff that's already in the quad realm, obviously. So it's just nothing new, but it's kind of nice to see some of the applications coming in the airplane. And yes, I'm excited about FPV, and yes, I'm going to try. I don't know why. And I guess, okay, I know why. Always having a spotter, always following those rules. And I was super cognizant of that while I was flying too, keeping my altitude, keeping my distance. It was an empty day at the park, which was really super nice. And I had a bunch of buddies standing around, yelling at me. So in that sense, it was quite safe and everything. So, all right, where's the next little piece of notes? The recorders, shooting over to Get FPV. Is that where I had that stuff? Yes. The run cam split stuff has been around for a while, but it's nice to see that those prices are coming down. Where you have your really high res, even some of the dual camera systems are really nice in that. And I was downloading and recording. I had a camera on the wing, but it's kind of neat to be able to have the camera point of view when you pan and tilt. So especially if you do a pan and tilt system, then I could actually line that up with the OSD footage as well. So it's, and even the recordings. My OSD recording, if you watch the video, wasn't great. I'm going to have to work on that processing. For whatever reason, it wasn't timing up. So I was having to do little edits as I go. But the run cam split, I remember that stuff costing a lot more. So it's neat to see that come down, and it's more pronounced in it. And then, of course, we have DJI rolling out those goggle series, and that one is still very much anybody I've talked to. I haven't flown with the Fly More. Well, not the Fly More, but just the experience, the combo experience without the remote. So basically, you're just getting the transmitter and goggles. I haven't tried it yet, but it's very interesting to me. It's if I was to drop a couple $100 on it, what was really interesting while I was flying, Steve, Captain Drone, buzzed me with his quad with this system, and he went right over top of my head, and my goggles went to static, and I was like, wow. And that's just the power of that transmitter. When he was flying around, we had no interference with each other at all. I was on my I don't know what channel I was on, A2 with my standard, Fat Shark gear, and had no issues. But when he buzzed me, the power of that digital transmission actually blanked out my goggles. Luckily, it didn't interfere with the recording because the recording was sitting over by the car. My goggles they just don't have a receiving unit that records. So it's just really interesting to see a lot of that stuff. And of course, looking at my notes and about the receivers, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm actually getting a lot of positive feedback from the community about things like the Roadmaster TX16S, the multi-protocols. I'm getting a lot of nice comments about that radio. Again, I haven't tried one, and if I get my paws on one, I will let you know what I think of it. But they look pretty cool, and the functionality and the ability to link in between them, I just don't know if I would trust them on a long-range rig or anything like that. Not that I'm going long range, but So, look, we got a cat on the show for those watching the little monsters on the table. So hopefully she doesn't bump or step on anything here. Hold on. Oh, gosh. Oh. Say hello. All right. So, all right, let me fix the microphone and we'll keep going. Woo. Again, it's nice to rekindle that experience. It's nice to get back into thinking about flying FPV. So I've got the wings that I'll get out again, and I got a couple other small ones, and I'm going to focus in on building this next ship, which will be that twin prop and everything. Yeah. That's the benefit of a live podcast. You get a cat jumping on the desk and everything. So, hey, I'm not sneezing, at least. I don't know about anybody else, but the allergies are terrible right now. 2 days out in the grass and playing around about the field and everything. I know one morning it was really foggy and I flew the DLG, and like I said, we'll talk about that one very soon. Let's see. I think we've talked about enough about the flying and everything with FPV. Watch the video. You'll hear me. I giggle away the entire time. My wife thought the ending was hilarious. So, yeah. And the next aircraft, obviously, I'm going to keep iterating and everything. And once I get my Renegade, which will be shipping from Defiant Wings, I'll port everything over from the airplane I've got sitting above me, take all that and retire that foam board, and be able to fly that one. That'll be my little sub 250 one. And like I said, I'm going to work with the board I've got now. Once I've soldered it up, because I got to put all the pins on, if I can get that thing to do pan and tilt, I'll totally put a pan and tilt in this thing. Everybody was asking me what I was thinking for shape. I'm probably going to do a belly lander / toss aircraft, no landing gear, just to save weight, because the power and size of the gear it's not going to be a 4-motor beast. It's just going to be a simple twin prop and everything. T-Craft Creations, that's an awesome. So if I can do pan and tilt on it, I will. I'm going to see. It's got a couple extra ones, but I don't know about the programming. Anyhow, we'll cover that. If I do it, I'll make sure I do a good YouTube video on it so I can talk about it. And stay tuned to all those other flight videos I flew. There's still grass on the bottom of the plane. Actually, the Pawnee went out a few times in the wet grass. The little mini Mustang, the Tundra, and a few others. So it was a good time. Yeah, the cat's actually in the background destroying something or playing with some rubber bands. You know, she's in a bad mood for whatever reason. Yeah. And I've actually driven the RC trucks a few times. So, okay. Focus. I'm watching the chat group. So, let's see. Now, wet airplanes. Everybody was asking why I haven't got any of those ones going. And I was close, and then August came, and everything fell apart. The life derailed in a spectacular fashion, and it took me a couple of days. It wasn't until earlier this week, or I guess late last week, that I actually started feeling better again. So it's so the wet planes have stayed on standby. The extra, as I said in the last show, was almost ready. I've been running it on my little rig and everything, and the last thing I had to do was verify the CG and reset the throttle servo, because when I would drop the servo down, it would cut the motor. So I've got to play with those settings and realign that. I'm almost a little suspicious that my DX9 has a dead spot low down. And I've seen this in the video games and a couple of the other planes, but I'm not sure. It could be me. I don't have a lot of Spectrum experience. I should actually compare it with the DX6, but I'm almost wondering if the sensor, if the pod is dirty or whatever. So we'll have to pay attention to that and see if that's a factor. The glow plane. Here's a question. How long will a jug last before the fuel starts losing its potency? Because that's a concern. I mean, I don't know how often I'm going to fly the glow plane. It's ready to go, but I just need to run that motor. So I'm kind of curious as far as, the community experience, how long we think that fuel will last. If I want to run that plane 2 or 3 times and that jug sits for the rest of the winter, am I wasting that? Or should I just keep flying that thing like crazy until I run that jug up? So, and will glow fuel even work in the winter? So that plane is the Carlsberg, anniversary clip wing cub in red and white. It looks gorgeous, and I can't wait to go. I put a 2S battery into it to power the system. I'm actually going to snag 1 or 2 of the other lithium ion batteries that came out of the 3D plane and put them in that and repurpose that, because it'll be fine. So. All right, so there's the glow experience. All right, Bill, I know you're not listening, but you'll listen after. So Bill Decker sent me the label from Real Flight. The first flight, I nosed the thing into the ground pretty hard and shook it up. Repaired it. Took it out, and I had a couple good throws, and I was warming up for the thing, and once again, as soon as I put enough energy into it, it's the wing screws that go, the receiving units for the wing screws that go into the fuselage. I glued them, and obviously it didn't hold well enough, so I got to actually take the whole thing apart again and reseat that. I'll probably use hot glue this time and just see if I can get that to bond into the foam around it, because I tried CA and I tried some foam tack, and that didn't seem to be structurally enough to hold that wing, because it was fun. I actually was getting dizzy, and just playing around with it, trying to get used to the settings, how much lift, how much I really like it on full throws, especially when there's not a lot of wind, because then you can get a little bit more control surface activity out of it. So unfortunately, I don't have a definitive review yet because I keep damaging it. So it feels a little fragile, but I think that's more in my hands versus the actual product. And once I iron out a couple of those little bugs, and hey, they always fly better after you've dented them, right? So sorry, Bill, I'm trying, man. It comes out with me every time. And like I said, the guys were kind of interested when I did a couple throws, but then I noticed, after a good huck, the wing was moving around there, and I just kept thinking, the moment I toss this thing really hard, I'm gonna. What's the other issue I noticed? I'm not a fan of the connections they use when they go out to the control surfaces. They use a carbon fiber rod and then a sleeve that hooks to the connecting rod, the connection point on the control surfaces. I find that slips out a lot, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably end up adjusting it and applying just a little bit of CA to that, just to lock that in a little solider. But overall, I'm hoping this aircraft and I gel, and it'll become a fun little, keep it in the car and throw it during a break and everything, or if the conditions it was perfect on Sunday morning because it was super foggy, so it wasn't going to fly anything else. And this thing, I just went around, and I got a good 5-6 flights out of it before I thumped the wing. So it'll come. Let's see. We're going to jump into the new products because there's not a lot out, but I'll admit our good friends at Horizon Hobby have done it again in that they, the pits. Also, I'm still not in love with the Horizon's new website. I find it really hard to find stuff, but I mean, let's face it. If you're gonna buy one, you're gonna go probably get the Twin 60 package, because that makes the most sense. But what a plane! Oh, what a plane! It looks gorgeous. Completely impractical. Would never fit in anything I own without it was this photo. This photo is the one with the product designer that got me in trouble. My wife was like, "It's bigger than the guy. Like, what are you thinking?" And I just chuckled. I absolutely chuckled. And then listening to the Horizon guys talk about putting in, four-stroke Sato motors and everything. Oh, it's so nice. If towing and capacity were some kind of just be able to get this thing into into a tow vehicle or transport vehicle without having to disassemble the wings, the Waco is enough effort. So this would be a whole other thing. And I know for a fact, looking at the build video, the tail section doesn't come apart, right? So this wouldn't fit in my car. At least with the extra, the tail section comes off, and I can actually get away with removing the parts, so I can actually fit this thing in my car. Long term, speaking of which, long term, there will be a trailer, a small 4x8 trailer, designed particularly. So you never know. I still have to get my Hangar 9 Cub home, and unfortunately, we don't know when that's going to be. The border is still closed. The border will be closed for a while. I don't want to sell it. I really don't want to sell it, but I might have to eventually. I might have to face the fact that the U.S. trips might be on hold for a while. I know, downer, isn't it? It really is not fun to talk about that. And that's why a lot of the airplanes I've been looking at in the last little while, if they involve shipping from the U.S., I really have been ignoring them and not really focusing in on them, because I know the Flex, the F100 is now shipped and everything. I'm waiting for Chris Gooden to get his so he can tell me how it looks and feels and tastes. But speaking of jets, I got to get Alpha on the show to talk about this. Bang. JS39 Griffin 80 millimeter. My goodness. $409 US shipped. Well, not shipped. I'm sorry. You guys in the US get your free shipping. I don't get free shipping. But this looks nice. This looks really nice. Spec wise, it's not as crazy big as the previous one. The Sukhoi. Not the Sukhoi. Was it Sukhoi? It could have been. But boy, oh boy, oh boy. Fully active canards, all the LED lights. Where are my specs? Specs. Let's give you guys the specs on this monster. 80 millimeters, obviously. So that's it's 63 inches long, has a 12-inch removable nose. So that makes it, going back to that previous conversation with Alpha about aircraft that can be moved and transported in your car. It doesn't look like it's got a lot of stuff hanging off the bottom of it. So once you close the retracts, you can actually probably dump it down on a nice cushioned surface in your car or truck and transport it. So here we go. Fully functional canards, 9-blade fans with a 1920 in-runner brushless. She'll do 107 kilometers an hour, 170 or 105 miles. Woo, that's fast. 63-inch, 12-inch, 100th anniversary check. Services for the NATO. And what's it sell? 7-channel receiver, 6-channel radio, 7-channel, interesting. And takes your standard 6S 4000 to 6000. So they're recommending this 6000 Admiral. So again, really nice aircraft. I love the scheme on it. Looks kind of fun and something out of the blue, or not even that. They just, Alpha didn't tell anybody, right? So there we go. I don't have a huge amount of extra content for the show. I'm just, like I said, happy to be able to get down and get the podcast going again, particularly after only one in August. I really was going to do a second one, but like I said, it wasn't a good time for yours truly to get going. The 80mm Griffin and the 80mm MiG-29 Twin, that's what it was. Thank you. And that is, what do we got here? Oh, no, the prices on the Free Wing, it was someone... TCAT RC was saying about the prices. The prices are on the money as far as what these aircraft are and everything. For me, unfortunately, for the Canadian shipping, it just puts everything over the moon as far as what the bang is. So, I mean, if I looked at what this thing is, it's probably in the size of the box. It's probably 60. I know some of them were encroaching on like $100 shipping. So all of a sudden, it's a $500 or $600 US. So it's like 10 million Canadian, right? So after duty and taxes and everything, it's better off if I want something like this to wait till I'm in the U.S. to pick it up. But like I said, the next time I'm in the U.S. to pick it up, pick anything up, it's going to be to get my Cub, to get my Hangar 9 Cub home. So, yeah, again, there's so many things. Honestly, everybody, let me know in the comments. What is everybody thinking into the fall? We're into September. We still got some time. I want to fly the EC 1500. The whole point of the weekend was for me to get shake the rust off the sticks. I even had a close call on takeoff with the Mamba at one point because I wasn't in the right mode and scared everybody, but caught it. So the rust came off quickly. Want to get the jets going. There's the ME-262 that needs to be flown. There's the Hawk. There's the Havoc. I need to finish the repairs on the A-10 and fly that. And then there's the Sukhoi 30 that I've got sitting there that hasn't flown yet either. So there's lots to go. Hopefully, the weather can keep up. And then into the winter, obviously, I want to, if I can make the right FPV ship and fly into the winter and all this stuff, if I can get the surface correct yes, I am going to be busy, but it's a good thing finally. It's nice to just know that I've got the energy to keep going and keep building. And I kind of realized, and there's a beautiful biplane behind me that I need to finish building, but I'm waiting on parts to get that going. And there's a lot that I'm going to be able to do. There's a cargo jet that I'm fabricating back there out of foam board and just all kinds of stuff. So stay tuned. Going to keep the camera rolling. Like I said, I shot tons of content. I'm going to try and get, more regular output and manage work and manage myself and just keep it going. But the point is, I'm going to enjoy this hobby again, and it's nice to feel refreshed and energized and everything. So again, super big thank you to all the patrons who've hung out with us. Big shout out to Buddy RC. Again, if you guys are looking to buy anything, 10% off. They do all the nice kit and they ship well. Still hoping we'll hear something about the OMP, their planes out of the Ohio model. OMP, Ohio model products. Kind of curious to see if anything's going to show up, because they are starting to do review planes and sending stuff out. If they do, and we get one in for review, I'll let the podcast decide whether it's going to be an electric setup or a fuel setup, and that'll dictate where I fly it, obviously, because I can't fly gas at the park. So but we're gonna have fun. I had a lot of good chats. I'm trying to get Stuart back on the podcast. He's been away for long enough and owes us an appearance, so we're trying. But again, Buddy RC. 10% discount. RC After Hours is the discount, is the code. And again, thank you to all the Patreons. You guys have been really helping us out in the last little while. Us. There is no while. There is us. It's a community thing. I haven't put out any of the new decals yet, but if you go to the Facebook page or to Spreadshirt, they have... Oh, darn, I don't even have... I wonder if I can do that real quick. I'll put the link into the show notes, but I put out some new t-shirts and everything with the new logo and the hoodies and everything. A couple of the guys have picked them up in different colors besides black and white, which has been really awesome. And yeah, I like the logo. It works. It looks good. I actually have a t-shirt and a hoodie on the way in finally, so it's that'll be really neat to see. Looking at some of the comments from TCAT, yes, they're bigger. The bush plane, the high wing looks good, and hopefully we'll see some. I've been watching all the reviews and really liking what I'm seeing, and the concept is fantastic. Balsa, what's the tagline? Balsa at the price of foam, which makes sense. So as long as it's good, solid kit, which it looks, you slap in some equipment and go flying and have some good time with it. So. Yeah, unless there's any other commentary from the chat. Yes, Big Horn. Thank you. It's the Big Horn plane. Yes. Otherwise, guys, it's been a short show. I know it's only been a half-hour hit, and getting 40 minutes, whatever. It's still really good to talk to everybody. Keep the comments coming in, like I said, over all the social media and everything. I will see what I can do about lining up another podcast guest very soon. I know I want to get Steve on the show to talk about. They're approaching summer, obviously, as on the other side of the world. So I want to see what they're starting to work up in his club and everything, what they think is going to be big and hot for the season. Myself, like I said, a bunch of jets, bunch of planes, bunch of builds, and got to get out. And when I take out those fuel-based planes, you bet the cameras will be rolling. I hope the club lets me roll a couple cameras. Worst case, I'll put my ball cap on and everything, or get someone to shoot for me, or I'll throw a microphone and a camera on board and we'll sync it up. But stay tuned. Thanks for everybody for the support and everything. It's been really appreciated. So we're gonna wrap up the show for this evening, and it's again just fun to be able to talk to everybody. Keep those comments and ideas coming in, and have a awesome end of your long weekend. Ciao. up. There we go. Hey, I'm still here. The recording is done, so if anybody's got any comments or questions, have at it. Open mic. I'm here for a few more minutes now, so cool. I've stopped recording the audio podcast end of it. I'll edit that up later on and put it out. But again, hi. Did I do what I think I did? Yeah, I closed all my show notes with everything on it. That's unfortunate. Let's see if I can open that up. And then we can do another little deep dive into any products. Or if anybody has any questions, I am available for the next little while. Flying was pretty awesome. And I'm glad I got out. It was good to talk to everybody. Everybody was really awesome about the social bubble and social distancing. It was good to see that. And like I said, they were just all happy to know that I was back and just enjoying the planes, and everything went really well, actually. This little guy, come here. The FT Mighty Mini Mustang was actually a really fun little build, pretty simple, and again, 5 gram electronics, a little 20 amp micro ESC 2204 motor, and 3S800. If anybody's flown airplanes, any of the FT planes, my absolute favorite is the Racer. This fly is similar. Obviously, it's a little bit more skittish, and I could see why the board from Flex Innovation would be really interesting on board if you could figure out how to mount it inside. You just have to watch the wing waggle a little bit. Otherwise, you just get out there and go. I'll have to correct I made some notes where I want to correct some of the balance on the aircraft, but CG was fine, but I just had to calibrate the elevator because I was dialing in a lot more down elevator than I was expecting. But otherwise, it handled really well, and it was a lot of fun. The Mamba, I wasn't sure if it was the wind or if it was the pilot. It kind of was handling a little weirder than I was expecting, but I've got to go back and reread my manual whether it was if I engaged the stability at the wrong point and the balance was off, because it felt a little weird. It felt like it was hanging funny, which could just be the fact that the gyros finds a spot, locks it in, and holds the aircraft. So I don't know. But it was good. The one takeoff I had with it was pretty gnarly, and I realized I took off, and I was in full manual mode with rates, and it was kind of like dancing, but I'm going towards the parking lot because that's the way the wind had shifted. And everybody's like, what's he doing? And I'm like, oh, look at that. I better engage stability. And then it took off and flew nice and clean and everything. So I'll poke around with it. Maybe then there's an update. Well, actually, I know there's an update for Flex, so I'll probably get in there and rejig that and check it out and everything. So in jets, let's see. Most of them are ready to go. I haven't flown the BA Hawk yet, and I want to get out that. I'll probably fly when I get back into the jets, fly the Yak and check that out and just use that one as my wake-up jet. The Dynam ME262 is almost ready to go. I just got to check the nose gear linkage because I was fiddling around with that and I wasn't happy with the nose gear steering. And once that's ready to go, poof, it should be ready to fly pretty good. The EC1500, I switched out the props, the adapters and everything because Horizon sent me new ones. I'm going to run it up outside because if anybody had watched the unboxing live, I had one prop shoot clean across the room. I actually tapped the camera for anybody who remembers that. So I'm going to run that outside when I do the spool up. The only thing I noticed, I was checking it out because I was going to try and fly it today. And last night I discovered the receiver, the double-sided foam I used to lock it in had actually given away, so the receiver was flopping around. I could just imagine the chaos that caused with AS3X. So that is a new Spectrum receiver because the one I had failed, and I think, if I remember correctly, I've uploaded the profile to it. I'll only be flying with AS3X on that, not safe, because you have to pick between safe or the back door, and obviously I want the back door. And for those who remember, I have a parachute set, triple parachute set with a camera. So that's going to go out and everything. So, well, I don't see too many other questions coming in. And so I think we'll wrap the show up and everything, or the after hour show. Anyhow, thanks again. And we'll talk to everybody in a bit. Everybody have a fantastic week. And I'll, like I said, I'll work on getting another guest onto the show, and we'll cover off any and all other subjects as they come up. Again, send in all your comments about what you think for FPV and everything, and what you think I should pursue. So, all right, ciao everybody, bye.